Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World, episode 185. I'm your host, Jon Jordan. Don't forget to check out my daily email about blockchain games. You can find that at gamestx.substack.com. In today's episode, I'm talking to Theodore Arganat, who is the director of Web3 at Gunzilla Games, and also to Andrew Coop Cooper, who is head of marketing for games at Avalanche, which is one of the key companies for Avalanche. So we're talking about Off the Grid. Off the Grid is the first big blockchain game to launch on console. It's been out for 3 weeks now, launched on PlayStation 5, on PC, and the Xbox Insider program. And so we talk about that initial launch period when Gunzilla went pretty big on streamers and how that sort of impacted the launch. But then we sort of talk about how this is the very early stages of Off the Grid. So Theodore says that less than 20% of the full game is currently live. It's really only one part of one mode that's live. And in particular, there's a big campaign mode, single player campaign mode coming. In addition, the blockchain it's running on, the Gunz blockchain, that's still in testnet, so that's got to go into mainnet as well. So very early stages for Off the Grid, but we talk about how it's going so far and some of the things to look out for in the future. And talking in the future, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Every week we're putting out new episodes, so don't miss out. But on with the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. We have a double header today, so great to have Theodore from Gunzilla. It's always helpful there when the person has their logo on their chest, in case you forget. Coop is not so there, and also Andrew Cooper from Avalanche. So thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks. My logo is here. It's just hidden.
Okay.
On the heart, on the heart.
Don't embarrass you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we are obviously talking Off the Grid, and really good timing. So this game's been out for, what are we now? 2 weeks, I think?
2 weeks and 6
2 weeks?
days. Tomorrow's going to be 3 weeks.
Days. Yeah, there we go. Almost 3 weeks. Okay, cool. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And obviously we're going to, during that time talking about Off the Grid, we are going to talk a bit about Avalanche as well, which is obviously the sort of blockchain ecosystem that is supporting Off the Grid. So that's the sort of the big theme we're setting. But always good to get a bit of background into our guests. So Theodore, do you want to give us a potted history about your career thus far?
Absolutely. Well, I'll touch on gaming first. I was a gamer on Commodore 64 in the early 90s playing.
Yeah.
So I'm carbon dating myself here, but very, very passionate gamer. And then subsequently to that, turned into a serial entrepreneur. Been building IT and technology companies for the better part of my life since 1998. Discovered blockchain technology in 2012, and then joined up with Gunzilla Games in the kind of latter part of 2021. And now I am their director of Web3 and working full time with Gunzilla.
Cool, good. Coop, over to you.
Yeah, so I've been a marketer, a digital marketer for 12 years, worked at a lot of agencies, helping a variety of clients, and ultimately joined crypto full-time about 3 years ago. Always working in the Avalanche network, really understand, crypto itself, the community, what's going on. I saw gaming really coming up when I joined and started to make it a focus 3 years ago. And now I run marketing for the gaming vertical at Ava Labs, helping the Avalanche blockchain. And also been a lifelong gamer. I think my first games were, some of my first memories were playing games, really. I think they put me on a computer a little too early, gave me access to Diablo as a child,
Okay.
and has impacted the rest of my life.
That explains a lot, Coop. That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Cool, good. So introductions out the way. Let's get on with Off the Grid. So as we say, sort of early stages, and it was interesting to see when the game went live. It sort of really lit up crypto Twitter, and lots of people had lots of opinions. But I guess we could go to Theodore. I mean, how have you seen? What's your sort of reaction to the launch so far? What's your feedback been? Are you happy?
Well,
I guess.
thankfully, it hasn't lit up only crypto Twitter, but it has lit up traditional Twitter as well. Absolutely. I'm very, very happy because we accomplished the biggest goal that we set out to accomplish, and that is to give gamers a very immersive and satisfying and exciting experience. And we have traditional gamers left and right, both large streamers as well as just regular folks, absolutely loving the immersive experience that Off the Grid provides them with, and commenting that this is their favorite new game across any Battle Royale game. And our goal was always to compete on the world stage, not to just become the best Web3 game in the world. And we've absolutely have blown past these expectations in a spectacular meteoric fashion since launching on the 8th of October.
Because I guess that's been the interesting thing, and you point out maybe my focus is on the crypto Twitter side of things, but it's your focus has always been that or one of the this is a game that you sort of promote yourselves a little bit on the fact you're a blockchain game, but that's maybe more to the crypto Twitter bit that I'm seeing. In general, you just want to say you're a great game, and you're obviously the first blockchain enabled game on console. And I guess the most interesting feedback you've been having is from people saying, well, there's no blockchain, in here that I can see. There's no wallets. I'm just sort of playing a game, which is, I guess, one of the things that all of us in blockchain are sort of struggling with.
That is right. Our main focus right from the outset was to focus just on the user experience. How do we abstract away all of this complicated technology? And most importantly, even though folks in Web3 love, pounding their chest, and I say that lovingly, right? But this is the fastest TPS, and this is the best wallet, and this is the best blockchain scanner, etc. To us, it's about utilizing the best possible technologies in Web3, in Web2, in any other area as well, to provide the best possible user experience. And in our humble opinion, asset ownership and blockchain-enabled asset ownership is at the core and should be at the core of that experience. And we firmly believe that in the future, there is not going to be Web 2, Web 3, and that whole argument is going to go away. It's just going to be about the user experience, and that will absolutely include full asset ownership, which currently in Web 2 simply doesn't exist.
I don't really know where the marketing sort of fell between Gunzilla and Avalanche, but as you're our marketing sort of person, Coop, maybe get your opinion on this. So one of the things that people got sort of very excited about was there was a big marketing campaign and lots of streamers. I mean, I'm not into streamers, but Ninja was the one that sort of got quoted because he's the one that even people like me sort of know about. But when I looked at the stats, he wasn't actually the most effective, I don't think, in terms of getting viewers in. But in terms of that marketing, with your marketing hat on, how do you think that went? Do you think is this sort of the way that certain blockchain games should sort of be thinking about marketing? It was, there were lots of, I don't think there's any official numbers, but I think people were saying it was $1 million a day or whatever. I mean, I don't know, probably you can't comment on that. But how did you feel at it from a marketing sort of a point of view?
I feel really good about it, and I can't take credit from Gunzilla. They executed the Web 2 campaign, but some of the things that I think I'm happy with is how deeply they went within their specific kind of game and focusing their strategy around a launch of that style game. They weren't just guessing at what game marketing could look like and how they could do it. They specifically were looking at how a battle royale can roll out and gain traction. And I think that's really important. You have to fill lobbies quickly. You have to build a social presence quickly because you need 3 players in every round. And the more you have your friends saying, I saw this game being played, like, do you want to play it with me? The more it grows. And so this a big launch like this has some serious benefits for their kind of game. And it seems like it's been going well from what I can see.
Mm-hmm. I guess I should point out probably a few technical things we have to point out as we go on. But at the moment, the game's technically only in early access. That's right, Theodore, isn't it?
That is correct. Yeah. The game is currently in early access on PlayStation 5, on PC, and currently in the Insider program on the Xbox, coming out of that very, very shortly on Xbox Series X and Series S.
Yeah. So for the Xbox, the servers are sort of there's times in which the servers are on, times in which the servers off. But the mode you play is 3x3. I think the 2x2 and the solo modes are coming at some point in the future. But at the moment, there's a very specific sort of mode that's happening there.
Correct. Currently, it is an extraction royale with 60 players in squads of 3 players per squad, battling for last man standing while also extracting in-game items through what we call our hexes.
Yeah, cool, good. And I guess when you have this sort of big marketing campaign and you can quote some sort of nice numbers over the opening weekends and all that sort of stuff. I guess one of then the question becomes, well, what's happening next? So obviously your initial sort of marketing, I think everyone would have to say, was pretty successful in terms of getting the game known. Is one of the problems with that sort of marketing is obviously if you're not, I don't know how much Ninja is. It's fairly expensive, so you get him for a certain period of time, and then he goes off and markets another game, and then your marketing has to move to a different level. I suppose you can't just keep getting the top streamers to play your game, and maybe you can. Well, I don't know. But
let's analyze for a second what took place since October 8th. Yeah, for sure, of course. Everyone, of course, is talking about the fact that Ninja and Shroud and Tim the Tapman have been streaming, and some other large streamers as well. What a lot of people don't realize is that we did not sponsor a ton of streamers. It was some of them sponsored, but we had over 3,300 people streaming, with over 3 million hours streamed, with even sponsored streamers dropping off from their sponsored stream, coming back on half an hour later saying that I love this game and going to keep playing it. Tim the Tatman literally said, "This is my game." It just kept streaming. We have Warzone streamers that start their video by saying, "I'm not sponsored by Gunzilla. I've never even talked to the devs, but check out how cool this game is." Now, let's switch a little bit to mainstream media, right? That's outside of the streaming vertical. We had Forbes, CNET, Rolling Stone completely organically write articles about us in an absolutely insane turn of events. Forbes mentioned crypto and Gunzilla in a positive light. Like Forbes never talks positive about crypto. And in the context of Gunzilla, they actually mentioned crypto in a positive light. We had traditional streamers realizing what the benefits of blockchain technology is. Some mentioned that, it's like serialized, verifiable Pokemon cards. Shroud mentioned, why spend a couple of $1 million rebuilding Steam when you can just build it all on the blockchain? People embraced in the traditional Web2 area, embraced what blockchain technology actually is bringing to the table, and realized that this is not some weird voodoo hocus pocus NFT ba stuff, right? But this is actually really, really simple stuff like verifiable asset ownership. Doesn't get any simpler than that. So that's one. Number two, very, very importantly, even after the sponsored campaigns stopped, the wallet growth and the transaction growth did not. We right now, just slightly less than 3 weeks after launch, are sitting at almost 9 million wallets as of this morning. We're sitting at over 101 million transactions. We had a big game launch, a big traditional Web2 game launch happening last Friday, Black Ops 6 by Call of Duty. Our transaction numbers didn't drop. Everybody was saying off the grid is going to get dropped like a hot potato. Everybody's going to switch over. That simply hasn't happened. The numbers are all verifiable. People can go to our blockchain scanner and see what's going on. We stayed very steady at our daily active users that are only growing. We stayed very steady at roughly 3 million transactions per day. Our wallet numbers are increasing. People are coming back on a regular basis. So it's been nothing short of phenomenal to see that people, once they learn about the game and actually try it out, absolutely want to stay with the game. And that transcends any popular streamers, by a long shot. And then, as Coop had mentioned, right, then he gets into, my friends are playing, I'm going to join up with a squad. Here's a squad of friends. Let's find another squad of other friends, and let's all kind of load in together and have a great time. And really important to point out, all of this reception and all this enthusiasm and excitement of this, very, very immersive gameplay is happening with the product being less than 20% rolled out.
Okay.
Right, we got our Battle Royale mode coming. We got ranked play, tournaments, custom lobbies, the story mode, right, with the first Battle Royale game in the history of Battle Royale games that will have 60 hours of storyline on both sides of the conflict, written by none other than Richard Morgan, who wrote the book Altered Carbon, which was turned into an award-winning Netflix show by the same name. We have all these things still coming, and yet even without those things, the game loop is so immersive and sticky and exciting that people are playing nonstop.
I've seen a lot of people focus on that point, like, you can't pay these big streamers forever, and I think that's obvious, right? Some of it does have to come from people enjoying the game, liking the product, having friends play, and of course that initial push also helped them rank really well on discovery platforms, like being the number one game on Epic Game Store. It's like that's not paid, right? That's just something that was achieved through the initial marketing, and now you see people are just going to continue to roll in organically through that, through PlayStation Store. It was like the top downloaded game on PlayStation Store
Yep.
recently as well. So I think, yeah, people making that point, it's valid. You can't pay them forever, but that's not the plan. That's not,
It never was, exactly.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not how success looks, right? You don't just get to keep paying people forever. The product has to shine, and it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, again, two very specific points, Theodore. Does everyone who starts playing a game presumably gets a wallet? That's the wallet aspect of the game. Is that right, or how is it?
Seamlessly in
Yeah.
the background, all the necessary tools required are provided for the gamer without the gamer ever needing to set up a wallet or swap any tokens or do anything else on their end that
Yeah.
is usually associated with Web3. That is correct.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of those 9 million wallets, that's not specifically for off the grid, though, is it? That's specifically for the Gunz blockchain, and there are other ways of interacting that's not off the grid.
That is correct. It is
Yeah.
technically for the Gunzilla blockchain, but the majority of these wallets
Okay.
all came after the off-the-grid launch. I believe we were at like roughly 2.5 million wallets pre
Oh,
October
okay.
8th,
Okay.
and we are at 8.961 million wallets as of right now. I'm just looking at the Gunz scanner right
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
So the majority are absolutely associated with the off-the-grid game. We
Mm.
do have a mobile companion game called Technocore that people have been playing for a little while. We do have our Gunz wallet that is available on iOS and Android that people have been interacting with, and the
Mm.
marketplace is accessible through that wallet as well. But the majority has absolutely come just after October 8th, which is all off the grid.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you can answer this question, but I just noticed that DappRadar started tracking you. So I don't know if every active wallet they see every day is a player, or whether you could play the game and not be an active wallet or not. But anyway, they had you at a peak of 166,000 wallets on launch weekend, and I think 130,000 last weekend. So the numbers haven't gone down a little bit, but not very much. But I don't know does that seem like they're tracking the right thing? I know sometimes it's hard to
No,
track.
they're not, and we
They're
haven't
not.
announced the official numbers yet, and we will.
Okay.
But no, the daily active users are much higher than that.
They are hard than that, yeah. I
Yeah.
know it's very. I used to work at DappRadar, so I know it's very hard to make sure you've got all the smart contracts and blah 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 blah. So okay, we'll move over that one. But yeah, it is interesting. You're saying 20%, less than 20% of the game is sort of out now, and it's sort of I guess you're sort of one element of one mode. Is there a sort of roadmap? I guess the interesting thing for some of us who don't like playing battle royale because we get killed quite easily. Is it sort of the campaign mode? So obviously, as you said, Richard Morgan, very well known sci-fi writer, for some brilliant stuff. So is there a sort of rough point in time you can say, or is that still sort of just part of the roadmap at some point?
Well,
It'll be out.
so number one, I'll say
Yeah.
self-awareness is the path to mastery. So knowing that you get killed quickly and that you should stick to stories is a good thing. However, however, we do have an awesome app called the OTG Companion app
Okay.
where you can match up with other players in your region
Not the
with your
bad players.
K&D ratio, etc. No, I'm just saying, right? Where you
Yeah.
can kind of get introduced to the game and maybe carry it a little bit in the beginning. Nobody starts out a good Battle Royale gamer right at all. It takes a little while to get used to that. Case in point, I played with, a good friend of mine the first 2 weekends. I'm like, oh, look at all this stuff, and I'm teaching everything, and I felt really good about it myself. And then weekend 3 and 4, they joined like one of the best teams in our universe, like the Merciless team. And now I'm like, no, you go play with your friends. I'm like, I'm not nearly at that level. So it's totally normal, right? That you just have to kind of go through the paces. But to answer your question very specifically, we plan to launch the game, the full game, right? The Battle Royale mode, etc., over the next, couple of months.
Okay.
Late this year, early next year. It's not has not specifically been announced yet, but we are very, very close to launching the full game. And if you have loaded into the game and looked left and right as the planes are flying before you're dropping in, you've seen fog on both sides, kind of obfuscating what's behind it. That's the rest of the island that is still yet to open as well. So it's not only the other modes that are coming, but it is also the full island that will be revealed and opened up as well. If you go to our website, playoffthegrid.com, you'll actually see an overview of what that island looks like. It's much larger than the map you currently are playing on. So there's a lot more stuff coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Because I guess one of the other things was probably over a year ago now. There was sort of quite an in-depth almost like short film, using the in-game
Hmm.
engine, where
Yeah.
where a lot of the sort of just background lore and characters and stuff were sort of sort of revealed, and that was I guess we expect that in AAA games now, and I guess the other thing is Off the Grid is probably still, in terms of the money, the budget raise is still sort of the only AAA blockchain game. But
Well,
there's a lot of that.
that's a great segue into where all of the lore is coming from.
Yeah.
So our co-founder is actually Neil Blomkamp, right?
Mm.
The award-nominated, insane creative genius that created the movies District 9, Chappie and Elysium with Matt Damon, and last year also the movie Gran Turismo for Orlando Bloom. So he's behind that whole vision, and he's behind those short films that you're referencing. There's actually several of them out there that talk about the lore and the background and how all of this came to be. And there's more coming on that front as well. And you are also correct. All of those were rendered 100% with the in-game engine. So they're not just some fancy cutscenes developed in 3D, but it is our in-game assets rendered with our in-game engine.
Cool. Good. So we spoke in some detail about Off the Grid. I guess we'll sort of take using the analogy, we'll pan the camera back a bit and look at blockchain gaming and Avalanche. So it's been sort of quite, without getting too geeky about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Avalanche has sort of gone through a fairly sizable technical upgrade. I think called Avalanche 9000. That's sort of the marketing headline for it. And I guess some of that is marketing, but there has been some technical changes underneath. But I guess it's always been interesting that Avalanche has been a sort of slightly different sort of blockchain in the way it's sort of been constructed. I won't go into all the detail on that, but it's basically allowed projects and games in particular to sort of run their own infrastructure, sort of separate from the main blockchain, but also connected to the main blockchain, and that's sort of where the sort of movement has been. So, as it's your job, maybe you can explain that to the audience in a way that's better than the way I explained it, and why Avalanche 9000 is sort of an important thing, and why it's sort of Off the Grid is sort of allowing you to sort of highlight that.
Yeah, you actually did a pretty good job, I think.
Okay.
Keeping it a high level where people can understand. That is what Avalanche does, is it helps builders create their own chain that's still connected to a broader ecosystem, makes getting funds around these various chains and apps a lot easier than if they were totally separate. It's not L2s. We don't store all the data in one spot. They're all their own sovereign chains. And I think that our belief at the core is that no single blockchain is going to be able to manage the world's data, and that eventually, apps, everyone who wants to use blockchain will benefit from being able to have their own chain that's connected to this ecosystem. 9000 is really, it's around a couple of key upgrades. One of them being really around the financials of building a chain. So previously they were called subnets because they were sub chains of the Avalanche main network. And essentially, like when Gunzilla got started, you had to stake a lot of AVAX in order to build your own chain. And what we found pretty consistently is that puts a high floor of like what you need to accomplish in order to have your own chain. And teams like Gunzilla, they're well funded to make that investment, make that choice. But as we want to make this available to the entire world, that model of staking a ton of AVAX to get started, especially for startups, which is the majority of the space, is just a little too high. And so it's introducing new payment opportunity to new payment methods for building a chain, specifically like pay as you go, and trying to make it much more accessible for a broad variety of builders. And I think Gunzilla is a great example of what we think is going to be the future of using blockchain, where it is back-end technology that enables ownership of your digital assets, but it's not getting in the way everywhere. And that's something that a lot of our games share that belief. And the Avalanche chain that they build allows them to accomplish that. That's pretty much what we're here for.
And in terms of, I mean, it's interesting that I was just making a note that there are, when you sort of research it, that there are quite a few games using Avalanche. I guess the Off the Grid and Shrapnel are probably the two sort of biggest ones in terms of being showy sort of shooters. But then Maple Story moved from Polygon, I think announced that 6 months ago, and some smaller ones, DeFi Kingdoms, and probably other ones I'm missing as well. But so it's sort of interesting that there are some quite high profile games on Avalanche, but Avalanche obviously is a general purpose blockchain. It doesn't really gaming is one of the use cases. I mean, is it something that you're sort of pushing more into? Is the success of Off the Grid meaning that you can leverage more people into that, or how does that play out?
Well, I was the first person to work on marketing for the gaming vertical, and before that we had BD teams who were trying to seed the ecosystem with partners like Gunzilla, who have been working with us for years. And I think over time, it's been a steady march towards getting the entire ecosystem to understand the value of gaming. And that, like, I think back to PCs and mobile and even the internet, and, how often games played a part in the broader adoption of those technologies. Like, I think it's pretty straightforward to look at each of those and say, yeah, gaming had a really good impact on how often and how integrated these technologies were in our daily lives. And that's what we believe at Ava Labs, is that gaming will also do the same for blockchain. And so it's a pretty deep belief in the gaming ecosystem now. And I think it's evolved over time, but examples like Off the Grid are just increasing confidence.
And Theodore, in terms of, we sort of mentioned it a few times, you have your own infrastructure running using Avalanche's sort of tech called Gunz, and that's what Off the Grid's running off of. But if I understand it right, you are looking for that to be a more, for other developers to be able to use that infrastructure as well. Is that correct? And how do you see that sort of playing out?
So there's several aspects to this. Number one, when we originally were looking at different blockchains and looking at different tools, we couldn't find anything that satisfied our very high-end needs and demands. And so we ended up building Gunz on top of a highly customized Avalanche subnet. We ended up doing the same thing for our wallet, or Gunz wallet. We ended up doing the same thing for the blockchain scan, NFT marketplace, companion app, etc. Well, then we looked at all of that and we said, well, what we have here is a AAA gaming ecosystem, right? And so post OTG launch, we will absolutely be inviting other AAA IP, whether Web2 or Web3, to launch on the Gunz chain. It will be invite only, be permissioned, and allow them to white label all of our technologies. But more importantly, also make sure that the white label a sustainable economy, and that we move away from these crazy times, right? 2021, Ponzinomics, etc. And so, that's the long-term plan. And obviously, one can very easily extrapolate from that. If a Web2 AAA gaming studio is looking at Web3 infrastructure and getting a toast wet with Web3, they're not going to go to just any chain, right? They will want to go to someone that has the experience of launching to tens of millions of gamers on console, an actual game dev studio that understands game development. So we'll be very, very well positioned to give them a home with what we've built so far.
And that's part of our goal too, is to enable teams like Gunzilla that want to build an ecosystem. And we, in 5-10 years, partially hope that it's barely Ava Labs, right? It's the Avalanche network is many chains like Gunzilla. If somebody comes to Avalanche and says, hey, we're a AAA game studio, we want to figure out how to do this, we say, well, go talk to Gunzilla. They've got this for you.
It's still the case at the moment that you're running on the test net, isn't it? So is there anything around the roadmap of when the sort of mainnet goes live? Because obviously that's sort of the start of it, and obviously, I guess for a lot of sort of DJ and crypto people, at the moment you have your Gunz token, but it's obviously running on a test net, so it's sort of like it's a real token, but it's sort of like a fake token at the same time, and so you have your when the mainnet goes live, that's when the Gunz token hits TGE, and presumably that's when it's available in
Correct.
exchanges and all that, and obviously we all get very excited about that sort of thing as well. So, is there anything you can
Sure.
sort of say about that?
The only thing I can say about that is that we always make sure to do things on a very big scale, as you guys have experienced with our early access launch. And we like launching things in stealth mode with people kind of being taken by surprise and like, oh my God, where did this come from? So we'll follow a very similar playbook, more likely than not, for our token launch. But we're not too far off, right? It's all happening. Everything is in process.
Good. Well, on that note, I think we've covered the launch of Off the Grid. We'll obviously have to get Theodore and Coop back again at some point in the next 6 months when it's officially launched. And you have this sort of early access sort of thing. It's not going to know what it means. Open beta, early access, and they could be never officially launched, but I'm sure you will at some point in 2025.
It means have a lot of fun now, but have even more fun later. That's all it means.
Well, there we go. Absolutely. So thanks to Theodore and Coop for their time.
Thanks so much, John, for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It was great. Thanks, John.
And thanks to you guys for watching, listening, however you are consuming the podcast. Remember, every week we are talking to the people who are building out this new way of making games, distributing games, playing games, rewarding gamers, all that sort of excellent stuff. So I hope you are enjoying it as much as I am. Please subscribe, don't miss out. But we'll see you next time.